When I was born, I know that one of the first things I remember about my mom was drinking. There was definitely the fun times, and then there was the like mean and aggressive mom. And I know that by grade four, grade five, she was definitely like a drunk. Like I knew that she was an alcoholic. There was no like on the weekend drinking, like they did on the farm when I was a little kid and stuff like that. So I didn't have, I had a mother maybe once every 2 weeks, once a month, not even, sometimes every 3 or 4 months. Um, it was so bad that like, because I had braces in high school, and I'd be the one that had to do all the driving because mom was so drunk she couldn't go anywhere. Like it was really brutal. I grew up in a bad town where my mom went to an AA meeting, and a classmate's mom was there, and she went home and told her daughter. Her daughter went to school, and then we had a big riffraff fight kind of thing. So, you know, that was disappointing. That obviously, that it's not, they don't keep it to themselves at their own classes. That's for sure. But yeah, I wondered, like, I never asked my mom because there's more than I was just pissed off at her. Like, why the hell wouldn't she quit drinking? You got a family, you got two kids. Like, mind you, she kept reminding us that she never wanted us. So, like, I mean, and then she'd be like, "Oh, well, you were okay," like, ooh, like either, that's why I never wanted kids. I didn't want somebody that was like a and a ha, like one day I like you, the next day I don't. No, no. I was like, no, I'm not messing around with that situation. So I, to this day, well, everybody drinks for a reason, let's just pick it up and go, oh, I'm going to be an alcoholic this lifetime, you know. So she didn't pick it for a reason. I'm not sure what the hell her motive was or anything. Never ever discussed, threatened her left, right, and center, down to calling her Irene for the last, I think, 20 years of her life. I called her Irene. And then every now and then she'd give me shit, be like, well, you're my biological mother, but you don't do fuck all for me, so you're just Irene. Like I didn't depend on her for nothing. Wasn't like I was having like Sunday afternoon phone calls and shit with her. Well, I did, but not in that regard, just checking to make sure she was alive because my brother lived in the same town or city because they were in Victoria, and he didn't even fucking call her. So that yeah, she was a drinker, and so after, well, I threatened her in grad, told her, I said if she didn't quit and pick, her family over drinking, that I was gonna leave, which I actually did. I moved out of the house for a couple 3 weeks, stayed with Rob and Connie, and then I ended up moving back into the home, and that's all I knew is that I just had to graduate and get the fuck out of there, and then Rob and Connie had left the year before, and I'd been in Victoria, so I had already visited the summer before. I spent my summer out there, so I knew what it was like. And then when I come back here, and that was my opportunity, was to move back to Victoria, though I took it right away. I was getting jumped right away. And then I was out there for 2 years by myself. Then my brother graduated, and then my brother went out there with me, and then mom and dad sold their house. I think it was another year or two after that. It wasn't very long, and then Bob and Irene are out there, and I was like, "Holy shit, man!" Like went from having just me and my brother to them, and then so sorry, dogs interrupted me there. Um, so Rob and Connie. So I ended up going to BC. That's why I went to BC, because I followed them out there, the mom and dad and everybody. Then mom had well, she was still a drinker, and she was suntanning on a, a balcony edge, and she fell 2 stories into a cement stairwell on her back, and like her head and her back fell first, and then the rest of her little pathetic body, because she's like 90 pounds soaking wet. So it uh it was. Dad was like, your mom tripped and hurt herself on the coffee table. Well, it was a lot more extreme than that when I showed up. Everyone was like, we're walking in there and doctors are like, oh, we made you like get ready for like pulling the plug and this and that because they're like, they didn't think there was like, didn't think it was worth saving her at that point. They were just like, but that she was Lenve. She's a bitch and she's powerful. She was just like me. So she made it through that one. That was a friggin' yeah. And then took her, what, 2 years? I think it took her for like, yeah, it was like 2 years out of the hospital, but in one of those, like a treatment place, right? She had to learn how to walk, how to do everything, like use everything. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't talk. She was just a start from fresh kind of person. And that bitch, what did she do the day that she come home? She fucking started drinking. So right then and there, Bob right away. And it was really funny because our whole childhood, there was a lot of discussion about like, oh, if we get divorced, who wants to go with who, So then at this age, it was like, well, really, you're gonna discuss it now? So they ended up getting divorced. Just I think it was 26 years they made it. They made it past her 25th. I know that much. And it was either the 26th or 27th that they got divorced. And when she fell, obviously coming back out of it and just going, I'll just keep drinking. And she never did quit. It only progressed to get worse and worse and worse. And one night I called, it was her birthday, and couldn't get a hold of her in the morning. And I don't really care. One day slips to the next, and you know, everybody else when it come to my mom, she's got three sisters in her mom, so figured she had enough contact, and then and they were too. They were trying there, but I wasn't trying. Then all of a sudden, Granny called one night. And she's like, "You trying to get a hold of your mom?" And I'm like, "Well, I tried calling her for the birthday and left her a message, And Gran's like, "Well, I can't get a hold of her. It's not like her." And I was like, "Okay, well." So I started calling a little more often and leaving messages like, "Yo, like, what the fuck you doing?" Being lippy. Like if you're fucking drunk, you can call me. Just whatever's going on. Because I usually she was drinking, she wouldn't bug grandma and that she'd bug me, because and then after she stopped after that because I only had so much time for that. But then, then I called my brother, and my brother and my mom don't talk very. They didn't because same thing. He just didn't want anything to do with. He has two boys that were growing up. They're 18 and 20 now, but you know, he had kids that he never wanted to see around an alcoholic. Like, she was really bad. Like, she was really bad. Like, I wouldn't have wanted my kids around her either, So his times with them were very limited. If you showed up first thing in the morning when she was sober, you could do really well. But that might happen once every 4 months, honestly. 'Cause I lived in the same city with her after even like growing up with her, and so nothing had changed at all. And then so she come out of that situation with a hunched kind of back or whatever, and she was living on some sort of co-op building. And then um called Granny said that yeah, she wasn't talking to nobody get a hold of her. So I called my brother and I was like, dude, like you live out there. Can you at least please go over? Like, I'm begging of you. Like, it's been like 5 days and 5 days is 5 days. What happens in 5 days if somebody's hurt and laying there, Well, this is what we found out. She was hurt and laying there for 5 fucking days because my fucking asshole brother wouldn't go over when I asked him to. He took his sweet ass couple of extra days. Couple extra days might be here today. There was a lot of dancing with the devil on that one, and it's not her fault she's dead. It really isn't her fault. We have no clue. The cops had to break in the door because it was locked from the inside, so the little thingy, the latch was on it and everything. But her her waterbed, which is we know how much waterbed weighs, was moved. There's no way she did it herself. And she had one of those old school TV ones that were like, way yay wide, and it was like the TV, and then the huge speakers built in the side from like 1962. Like she had one of those, like there was shit moving in her place. There's no way in God's green earth she would have done that herself. So there was somebody in there with her. Um, don't know whether what happened. Who knows what the hell happened, but they took her to the hospital and had her on tracheotomy or whatever you call that fucking word. And then I, well, Dad called him. He's like, Amber, you got to come out here. He's like, I'll get your plane ticket. He said, just your mom's hurt. You need to come. And he didn't. He never leaves it more than that because, come see for yourself. So I was like, oh shit, here we go again. So we go out there, and the first time was really bad. I got kicked out of the hospital at the end of it. Like I was no longer allowed because I was so mean to the staff because they were fucking cruel out there. They'd all be sitting there and joking around at the phones ringing, they're joking, they're laughing, they're chewing their sandwiches, and my mom's laying in a bed of piss. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like I have no problem with like fucking beaking off people. Like fuck you, man." So then this time with this one. And I wish I would have been a bit more fucking lippy. I was drinking when I was there too. I don't know, I should have fucking been more lippy. I think it was because I was trying to get along with my brother really good and behave with my brother because we hadn't seen each other for so long, and yeah, it'd been like 5 years, 6 years, and it was different because he had the boys, so we wanted to make sure that, I wasn't doing anything stupid or had the boys around, kind of like that whole Irene thing. But no, I was really good with the boys because you and they made a comment, oh, can we spend more time with Auntie Amber? And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll do whatever, like, stay at our aunt's house, spend all my time with them. And then, so then I had the doctors when I first went in, they were like, well, it'd been a few days. No, no, it went in. I went in after. When I went in, at first it started off with about a week after I got in there. They were going, oh my God. Well, her chest screens are coming back okay at first, but then they started getting cloudier and cloudier and cloudier. And they're like, oh, well, that means something's wrong with her lungs. So I was like, I ain't fucking leaving the room, man. No, 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 I'm watching all this shit you're doing. And they stuck like a fucking full on fucking needle. Like, I'm talking like the fucking, like, something like, like, it wasn't even a needle. It was a pipe, and just jamming her fucking side, man. And it was fucking these this blue cylinder thing on the floor just boom, 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 boom. All four of them just fucking filled up. Blood started dripping all over. I was like fucking, and then blood on her. And it looked like fucking part of a horror movie. Like you couldn't have written it any better. And I was like, I was like, good job, mom. Good job. You were gonna fucking do it right, man. Like, spray the blood. I had blood on my clothes. I found it highly amusing because I'm a horror fan. So is my mother. So, looking back on it, we both be like, when I see her in heaven, I'll cheers to her. I'll be like, fuck, man, what a way to do it. If you're gonna do it right. Well, because them fuckers were assholes. Because then, so that was because they put the tracheometry in wrong, that it leaked blood into her thingy. And then the second thing that they did wrong was they put that catheter thingy in wrong. So it was doing something to her leg so that her leg, the bottom part of her foot, well, her whole right from like right above your calf part, or like right where your sock would start, where your ankle is, that was all pitch black, pitch black. They're like, oh, we're gonna have to amputate her. I'm like, oh my fucking word, man. And she's registering 82 pounds right then, because she was like, I mean, she literally, when I cleaned her house up, so then the fucking so then they get her out to take tracheometry, and I'd been there a couple weeks. This is when had the when I had the ice cream parlor, and then so I had to take time off from that, and then Justine was like, "You got to come back," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I went back, and doctor pulled us into a room and he's all like, "Well, she'll be okay. She's moving to another ward, so." we'll be able to keep an eye on her and yeah, be free. You can feel free to go home. And he knew I was from Saskatchewan. Now, everybody knows that the fucking island is on a lockdown after 11 o'clock at night. There's no ferry terminal service. There's no fucking airplane that lands. There's not a helicopter that can land. It's like dead zone. You're not allowed to do it. Like, no. So it was like, great. So the guy says, go home. I come home. Not even 2 hours after was I home that I got a phone call saying, Amber, you got to rush back out here. Your mom's screaming your name. How quickly can you get here? And I'm like, I'm in Saskatchewan for Christ's sakes. I gotta wait 4 hours before the terminal even opens up to make like like even to get a flight out. So the first one when I turned around, my aunt man, that was trip. It was just a fucking nightmare. So then I went back, and then oh yeah, so yeah, then they called me and yeah, they're like, you gotta hurry back. Nope, and I didn't make it back in time. She died. She died before I got back in time. So that was not a beautiful situation by any means. And then when I went back, there was I just drank even more. I was like, you know what? That's about all I can do right now. Like that's just who are you gonna fucking fight? There was Chris Considine would have taken it on, but it would have been like a year-long process because it's a bitch to go after doctors, even though that one he said he could have done, it would have been a big deal. So, no, and my brother wanted no participation of dragging anything out. He just wanted to get that over and shit like that. So, cleaned up what little bit she had in our house, and yeah, that was a hard one. But, you know, I wish I would have asked her, why she drank, what her reasons were, as opposed to always just threatening her or giving in. It was either yelling at her and saying, you gotta stop, gotta stop, gotta stop, or it was like a weekend and it was like, oh, we'll have a couple of shots with her and then I'll go out and do my Friday night thing. So, you know, I never had a mother really growing up, never that woman that, does your braids really or teaches you makeup or anything or you know she was really good along the lines of like keeping my ADHD in track and my my anxiety and depression. She was really good. She never gone on me on any kind of drugs, so she pushed me as hard as she could with the things that she knew were working for me, whether it be like the artwork and creativity that I used to do so much. So I need to get back into that, that's for sure. So, yeah, drinking killed my mom by far. My grandpa died the same way. And then one day, Kevin came here and he said, Amber, you look a little bit yellow. It was just when COVID was around and we weren't seeing anybody. And he said, you either go to your doctor or I'll take you to or I'm rushing you to the emergency right now. I said, okay, fine. So I went down to the doctor. That's when he said, your liver is actually, yeah, going to be toast. So, and then I turned her all around. So it's a little late for my mom, and then I'm just looking forward to going up there and seeing her and having, I guess, her my rainbow bridge because she's allowed up there because I don't know what her reasonings are, and for me to drink the way that I did, she drank the way that I did. So I know that she had reasons that were probably just as pathetic as mine were. So, and well, you tag on that finding out that, when your daughter's 13 years old, she tells you, yeah, her grandfather was molesting her for like the first 8 years of her life. That would throw me into some fucking drinking. And that's one of the major reasons why I never when it comes to me fighting for not having a kid, it took me 8 different doctors, which was fine. I knew one of them sooner or later would fucking come, listen to me. And Dr. Robertson on Quadra Street in Victoria listened to me because I told her, I said, if I have a kid, so I have no problem with like popping out one and giving it away, but because I couldn't keep it. If I did, I would probably have beat it like my mom beat me, or and I wouldn't have anything to do with that separation, like, oh, if we broke up and you get him for 2 days and I get it for the rest. No, 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 no. I get it at all times. You get nothing then. In there, you actually die. I'll take you to the pig farm. Like, I don't share my child with nobody. And that's another reason. If you would have even looked at my child wrong, I'd be like, yeah, like I first instinct is just hit, ask the questions later on, like, you know, always very hot-headed, I guess you could call it. But I've been raised like, no, this is not even just a family fighting, like mom ourselves. Like, my dad was the ref for the hockey team, so, like, everything in our house was our life seemed to be pretty violent, based on violent things. I had no problem with it, trust me, because it made me who I am. Like, I mean, it made me a strong person personally. I think, like, I can watch any horror movie and there's not a whole lot of jumping going on, and if there is, it's followed by a huge laughter after the fact. 'Cause it's like, fucking hey, somebody managed to scare me, you know. So, but it's really hard when you have an alcoholic parent. So if you are an alcoholic parent, do everything you can to maybe try and stop. Think about your kids, because it does fucking affect your kids no matter what you think. And especially if they're begging you, you really should stop. I know it's a bitch not to, but you know, we weren't the ones that chose to come into the life. You're the ones that chose, you took care of it. You wanted us, so, you know, try not to, try to give up the drinking or not let it affect your kids or anything. That's just, it's really hard. It's embarrassing in high school, there's nowhere you can really run, you know. So anyway, that was just my rant about my mom being an alcoholic, and if you are, get out as soon as you can. There's so many different ways to do it. Anyway, have a good night. And yeah, everybody's sleeping, so I better go off to sleep too. Good night. Let's talk to you soon.